Hello, we're glad to have you join us on the News on NT International at this time. Reaching you live from Abuja, I am Ruth Aguele. Let's begin with the headlines. Nigerian government says partial closure of land border is aimed at tackling economic sabotage. House of Representatives to investigate alleged crude oil theft. And federal government commences negotiation with labor leaders ahead of joint comprehensive meeting scheduled for Tuesday. And we begin with agriculture. The federal government says the partial border closure is not meant to create havoc in neighboring countries, but a step towards addressing economic sabotage. Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Mohammed Sabo says Nigeria remains food secured. The minister was speaking at a press conference on activities marking this year's World Food Day. Musa Baba Aliyu will tell us more.
In spite of the fact that most West African countries rely on Nigeria for food, especially grains, the country is, however, having influx of food items through illegal means. This, the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Mohammed Sabananunu, says necessitated the federal government's decision to close her land border.
Nigeria tried to make this neighboring country understand our commitment, but no avail. So, the decision was taken to close the border in order to sensitize those stakeholders that are responsible for creating problem for us.
The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations says Nigerian farmers need better incentives to increase production. The country representative Sofian Kuroma says research institutions need to provide technical know-how to increase food production.
And Nigerians in urban areas are increasingly relying on away-from-home meals sourced from various vendors, although without prejudice to those who do nutritious food. A lot of this food from home are usually sodium, sugar, and as fat-laden, and sometimes of poor quality.
Nigeria is joining the world in marking this year's United Nations World Food Day, which focuses on healthy diet and zero hunger. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Still on the partial closure of Nigeria's land borders, which has continued to gather pace, with result evident in the economy and national security. Now, this was disclosed at a joint media briefing by the Office of the National Security Advisor, Nigerian Immigration Service, and Nigerian Customs Service in Abuja. Victor Azu reports.
For many years, Nigeria suffered economic losses and insecurity, with most aided by the porosity of Nigeria's land borders. In an attempt to curtail this, the federal government ordered partial closure of Nigeria's land borders on July 21, 2019. Coordinated by the Office of the National Security Advisor, the tripartite operation also involves the Nigeria Customs Service and Nigeria Immigration Service, ex-swift response they call it. Nearly 3 months down the line, a situation report is in order. Comptroller General of Customs and Post, Hamid Ali, goes first. He enumerates the gains of the operation, especially on the economy.
Patronage of Nigerian rice has increased, and farmers are expanding their farms as well as engaging more hands. Our consumption petroleum product has reduced by 10.2 million liters.
By extension, it has also reduced the scale of other transnational organized crimes like proliferation of small arms and light weapons, terrorist activities, as well as anti-banditry operations that have been going on.
From the Nigeria Immigration Service's perspective, the operation has capped illegal entry into the country.
We have refused entry of 1,111 people who want to enter our territory, but because they don't have a travel document, we just turn them back. 728 people have been removed.
Little wonder there seems to be no hurry to relax the operation. If anything, it is proof of what cooperation can do for national security. In Abuja, Victor Azu, NTA News.
And talking legislature now, the National Assembly is to pass the Petroleum Industry Bill next year. President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, was speaking at an interactive session involving the Senate, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, NNPC and other actors in the oil industry. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports that the meeting was basically to get more input on the Petroleum Sharing Contract Amendment Bill.
This interaction is sequel to the second passage of the bill that seeks to amend the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act, which regulates the sharing of additional revenue between the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and the various production sharing contract oil companies. The Senate, in a bid to ensure that Nigeria is not shortchanged in the sharing arrangement, embarked on the amendment of that act. And this meeting, convened by the Senate Committees on Petroleum Upstream, Gas, Finance and Judiciary, is to reassure investors, especially international oil companies, that the benefits of the amendment will be mutual.
We know we have other countries who have this product, and therefore we have to be competitive. We have to have an environment where the businesses make profit. This is a journey that involves everyone. We want both government, and that includes the legislature and the executive on one hand, and the IOCs to work together to ensure that this environment we are trying to create is an environment that will work for all of us.
Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timi Pre Silva, observed that the amendment will significantly improve Nigeria's oil reserve.
This has been a law that has been long-standing, and you know that there's not been too much investment in the oil industry for a while because the regulatory environment has not been very clear. So it's very important as a country for us to clarify the regulatory environment by amending the law so that all operators in the industry will know exactly what to expect when they come.
Shell Petroleum, Mobil Production, Chevron and Total were among the international oil companies at the dialogue. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
And in another development, House of Representatives is set to commence investigation into alleged theft of crude oil in Nigeria, which is put at 400,000 barrels per day. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that chairman of the ad hoc committee and House Deputy Leader Peter Akpatasen says the committee intends to also look into diversion of crude oil and pipeline vandalism.
Allegations that crude oil is being stolen on an industrial scale and proceeds laundered through world financial centers prompted the House of Representatives to set up the ad hoc committee.
We need to know the players, the people who are diverting these funds that is for Nigerian people. Some individuals are richer than the country, and I can tell you that for free. And who are these people? They are people who are shortchanging the system.
It's also a known fact that Nigeria funds the budget about 90% from the revenue accruable from oil proceeds. And if we do not take up this task to find a lasting solution to put an end to crude oil theft in the country, there will come a time we would have to do more borrowing to fund our national budget.
The committee has 6 weeks to conclude the assignment. In another development, the House Committee on Insurance has interacted with management of the National Insurance Commission towards improving the sector.
There is no law that is cast on steel that it will remain like that over time. Because of the dynamism in this society, we keep making some changes. And I know quite well that certain flaws, like he mentioned, in the insurance industry has made it impossible for the enforcement to take the very deep reach.
We also believe that due to inadequate capitalization, some of the companies are not able to meet their obligations as and when due. This is one of the things that prompted our having to increase the capital, in addition to increasing the local retention.
The need to amend laws on insurance were highlighted at the meeting. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Now let's take you to Washington, D.C., where more than 100 member nations are participating in this year's annual meetings of the World Bank and the IMF, where major policy issues will be discussed in the coming week. Leah Katung Babatunde is standing by with highlights.
The fall meetings are always a platform for policymakers, political leaders, monetary authorities, the civil society, and of course the academics to brainstorm issues that help shape the world. From economy to finance, climate change and poverty reduction, inclusion and opportunities. There's something for everyone, including the future generations, in this week-long event. Now, this year, the Nigerian delegation is being led by the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed, and she's expected to tailor her discussions around the task ahead of Nigeria in putting economic growth ahead of demographics. There will be in a couple of days a session dedicated to Nigeria where the minister will be talking on strengthening domestic revenue mobilization. This is coming on the heels of a renewed vigor in sourcing more revenue for priority economic developments. And in the coming hours, the IMF will be presenting the World Economic Outlook Global Growth Forecast. And these, of course, will be telling how the economy will be shaped in the coming months. From the IMF headquarters in Washington, D.C., Leah Katungbaba today, NTA News.
Thanks, Leah. And for more on the financial sector, here is Olayinka Ojo.
Accelerating the pace of economic recovery and diversification of the nation's economy and achieving massive job creation are some of the key features of the 2020 budget. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, promised implementation with increased vigor.
The ERGP expires by the year 2020, and so does the Vision 2020. So we are already starting a process for developing a long-term plan. It might be 20 years, but when we set up the process, we will determine the period along with the various stakeholders that will be engaging. From that 20-year business plan, we will be drawing up 5-year detailed implementation plans.
The International Air Transport Association says African Airlines traffic climbed 4.1% in August, up from 3.2% in July. The global body noted that the performance came after South Africa, the region's second largest economy, returned to positive economic growth in the second quarter of 2019. How is the Naira exchanging for other international currencies? Olayinka Ojo, NTA News.
And talking security now, the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole has decimated a location at Boboshi on the fringes of the Sambisa Forest in Borno State, being used by Boko Haram terrorists as a meeting venue. In a statement signed by the Director of Public Relations and Information, Nigerian Air Force, Air Commodore Ibikunle Daramola, says the attack was conducted on the 13th of October 2019, following successive days of intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance missions, coupled with human intelligence reports, which established that a building within the settlement was being used as a rendezvous by the Boko Haram terrorists, where their commanders assembled to take instructions before launching attacks against own troops and innocent civilians. Accordingly, the Air Task Force detailed its fighter aircraft to attack the hideout, scoring accurate hits within the designated area, leading to the decimation of the target structure. Several Boko Haram terrorists were also killed as a result of the strikes. The NAF, operating in concert with surface forces, will sustain its efforts to completely destroy all remnants of the terrorists in the northeast. And still on security, expectations regarding Nigeria-Pakistan military relations are quite high, with the visit of the Pakistani Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Mujahid Anwar Khan, to his Nigerian counterparts at the headquarters of the Nigerian Air Force. Correspondent Naja'atu Tijani reports.
Nigeria-Pakistan bilateral relations span 5 decades, notably in the area of trade and military interventions such as the supply of defense equipment and the training of personnel. And this visit of the Pakistani air chief is expected to add value in these areas.
This is what we look forward to, that we cooperate with our Nigerian brothers and sisters so that comes for the defense of the Nigeria.
We are so many of our officers right now training in, with the Pakistani Air Force, and I think that partnership will ultimately impact positively on what we are doing in Nigeria.
Military relations between these two air powers has seen support in the form of upgrading of the Nigerian air fleet with several PAC Super Mashak training aircraft as well as JF-17 Thunder combat aircraft via a landmark agreement in 2018 where Pakistan gave a sovereign guarantee of $183.4 million to enable the Nigerian Air Force acquire 3 of the Thundercrafts assembled in Pakistan. Nigeria and Pakistan share similar security challenges, and Air Chief Marshal Mujahid has given reassurance of his country's commitment to fighting insurgency and extremism via air power support and capacity building. Naja'atu Tijani, NTA News.
And it's time we go on a break. We'll be back, so please stay tuned.
Hey, you! And are you how they talk to? Sabi you now. It's in your mind, Abi. The person who go help us. Baba Toros and Shangalo. Ogalekuva, Mr. Sabi. And you know if we carry last for this one. A spear into the top corner. We Sabi say Peking will crawl before in waka. So don't look, no help anybody. No dolly, no. So go for her. Go for football. Go for all Serie A and La Liga matches live. Go for TV Max.
Glad you're there. The federal government has commenced negotiations and meetings with concerned groups ahead of the joint comprehensive meeting scheduled for this Tuesday. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, at the end of a closed-door meeting, informed journalists this Monday that government is committed to the implementation of the new minimum wage, which some workers have already started enjoying.
They will have no need to go on strike. They will not have any need to go on strike because we will all agree on the modus operandi. Because what has come out from these meetings is that a lot of wage reviews are taking place in silos. And having come out in silos like that, it gets of some difficulty in navigating the consequential adjustments. So we are just trying to agree on the areas of disagreement. So it's a full meeting. We are continuing tomorrow with the bigger house.
Labour leaders on their part say federal government's action to implement the consequential adjustment will determine the effectiveness of the nationwide strike, scheduled to commence Wednesday, 16th October 2019.
The consequential adjustment, like you know, is a matter of percentage, so it requires and take principle. So certainly when you say this is what you want, it also depends on government to see sense to your demand. Because as a matter of fact, Labour have shifted and we believe we've done beyond expectation. So what is needed of government is to reciprocate in doing what is needful in appreciating their workers.
In other news, the federal government is canvassing the need for development partners to upskill international interventions to tackle specific needs in Nigeria. This is the position of the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola, in response to the United Nations Industrial Development Organization country program in Nigeria. Onengie Fineface reports.
The United Nations Industrial Development Organization's country program in Nigeria is a $60 billion intervention initiative. The program is focused on growing Nigeria's economy with investments in industrial governance, agro and agri-businesses, minerals and metals development, micro, small and medium enterprises, and environmental governance.
This is a way we have to show the importance of Nigeria in leading the African economy, because there is no way it can be done if we cannot industrialize. And there is no way we can do it if we cannot consider a massive investment through this particular sector.
Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola, insists that greater impact will be achieved if the fund is targeted at a specific project.
$60 million is about 21 billion naira. So if you have that kind of money, why don't we use them to do one or two big things industrial? So why don't we have one massive industrial complex that becomes an example for others to follow?
On the flip side, Works and Housing Minister says his ministry will domesticate campaign for voluntary blood donation through in-house advocacy and quarterly retreats. This pledge follows an advocacy visit to his office by the leadership of the National Blood Transfusion Center in Abuja on Nigerian Fine Face. NTA News.
The model of the ECOWAS Early Warning and Response Network, codenamed ECO-1, is being evaluated 11 years into its operations. Hamman Jabani reports that the outcome is to improve the system, which has been judged as one of the successful early warning mechanisms on the African continent.
The ECOWAS Early Warning System was established in 2008 for conflict prevention, management, resolution, peacekeeping and security in the region, and to enhance proximity policing and early response at local and international levels. The ministerial meeting is aimed at presenting the ECOWAS data model for the creation of awareness of ECO-1 system, access to ECO-1 data collection and validation, model strength and how to improve the existing system, as well as review the entire system.
This holds true because an effective conflict prevention and management tool resulting from this evaluation exercise would be one of the best assets and tools a regional economic community like the ECOWAS Commission can have at its disposal to protect its member states and population from threats both external and internal.
We have reached a level where we are deploying early warning at the national level with the creation of what we call the National Early Warning and Response Centers.
This workshop really provides us with a fantastic opportunity and platform for knowledge exchange about how we can do all of this better.
The outcome of the meeting will help in addressing major risks, threats, and challenges that include intercommunal conflict, violence associated with transhumans, flooding, food insecurity affecting member states. ECO-1 is geared towards predicting conflict outcome that translate to peace negotiation and prevention strategies in the region. Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
And on the foreign scene, here is Ado Adamwalso as our guide.
Hello and welcome to this segment of the news. I am Ado Adamwalso. Sudan has sent a delegation led by Mohamed Hamdan Dangolo, a senior member of the Sudan's ruling Transitional Sovereign Council, to the South Sudanese capital Juba for talks with rebels group operating in Sudan. The talks would open today after South Sudan's President Salva Kiir invited both sides. The talks between the transitional government and the Sudanese Revolutionary Front aim at convincing rebel groups that have been fighting the government army in the Blue Nile, South Kordofan and Darfur region to join the Sudanese political process. And Spain's Supreme Court has sentenced 9 Catalan separatist leaders to between 9 and 13 years in prison for sedition over their role in an independence referendum in 2017. 3 other defendants were found guilty of disobedience and fined, but will not serve prison sentences. The 12 politicians and activists had all denied the charges. Separatists in Catalan were planning mass civil disobedience ahead of the verdict. Finally, more than 110,000 people are taking part in a search and rescue operation after Typhoon Hagibis struck Japan on Saturday. The typhoon, the worst storm to hit the country in decades, has left at least 40 dead and 16 missing. Typhoon Hagibis also caused the cancellation of 3 Rugby World Cup matches, but the key match between Japan and Scotland went ahead. Thousands of police officers, firefighters, Coast Guard and military are working to reach those trapped by landslide and flood. And that is it from here. Thank you for your time. I am Ado Ademwalso.
Thank you, Ado. And just before we go, here is a quick check on Tuesday's weather prospect for Nigeria and some cities of the world. And that concludes the news at 7 on 90 International. Thanks for your company. I'm Ruth Aguilera. Bye.